the pay gap, which is a fucking lie. Just a
complete
lie.
It's not just a lie. It's a lie that's perpetrated by Obama on TV talking about it. I mean, it's such a confusing lie.
It's just bizarre. It is demonstrably false.
Yeah.
And it is a lie. So why do I why does everyone want to be so divisive? Why do you want to add more fuel to the fire when you can be like, hey, well, maybe we have problem X, Y, and Z, but this isn't a problem, actually.
I saw it again recently. It was recently in the news. Somebody brought it up, and they're unchecked and unchallenged. Just explain to people if they were, because I've done it too many times.
Okay.
Explain to people what the real pay gap is and what the issue is and why it's used incorrectly.
So the pay gap claimed by studies, I guess the Department of Labor or something, is 21 cents or something like that. So saying, right. I think something like 79, every dollar a man makes, a woman makes 79 cents. That's true only if you take every man, every woman, take all of the money they make and divide it by the amount of men and the amount of women. Doesn't take into account careers, doesn't take into account personal choices. Women, for instance, leave the workforce to have families. Sometimes men are gravitating towards engineering or physics or things that pay them a lot of money, while women tend to tend maybe towards psychology or something like that. I think the argument is something like 9 out of the 10 top grossing career choices are men dominated, and 9 out of the 10 lowest career money making career choices are actually dominated by women. I think the only exception there is clergy, which is dominated by men. And so, but it doesn't adjust for any of these things. So when you actually adjust for choices, when you adjust for careers and longevity and hours and all of these things that are relevant, the pay gap closes to something like less than 5 cents. And then there's even arguments saying that those could probably be explained away completely as well, depending on, I know Christina Summers and some of these people that know way more about this than I do have videos about. If you actually dive in, you probably can get rid of the entire number completely. But it's preposterous to say that the woman makes 79 cents for every dollar.
And it's just repeated ad nauseum. The real issue is it's implying that two people working alongside each other at the Apple store, the man is making $5 an hour, the woman is making 79 cents an hour less.
Yeah,
or 79 cents per dollar less.
Right, a significant amount. And I like the argument because it's true. You know, why not? Why, if that was true, why wouldn't a corporation just hire women?
79 cents. I should say it right. 79 cents to every dollar the man makes.
Right.
It's just, yeah, corporations would hire women if they were just as competent and just as skilled. And it's not that. It's also men are more likely to die on the job. Men are more likely to pick way more dangerous careers like forest fire fighting, whether it's coal mining. All those things are dominated by men, and a lot of people die in them. Law enforcement, of course. There's a bunch of issues with it, but the problem is it's spewed out as an indication that we are an inherently sexist society. And whether or not you can find sexism in our society, I'm sure you can. It absolutely exists, just as racism exists. I don't think it is nearly as much of a problem as they're trying to pin it out to be. And I think there's a lot of other factors involved in why men make more money, and one of them may be the demand for a higher salary when they're being hired, better skills at negotiation, or more confidence in those sort of confrontations with employers or negotiations with employers. I mean, there's a lot of factors, but it doesn't do anybody any good to repeat a false statistic when it's provably false, and then when people find out that it's false, and then they lose confidence in the information they're being given.
It's also, I think that's one half of it. The other half of it is like, what does it say about a person that just continues to say it anyway?
Right.
Like at some point, truth doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Like I want to have factual debates. I want to have like, oh, this is the starting point. These are objective truths. And then let's debate about those things.
Right.
But if that's your starting point, if that's like a third of the entire reason why you're angry and in the streets in Washington, D.C., well, then I don't even know what you're angry about anymore, to be honest. It's the same. It goes back to like Occupy Wall Street or all these things where I'm like, I don't know exactly what you're angry about. And this is why this protest isn't working and isn't resonating with people.
I saw people in the March for Women, the Women's March thing, with signs talking about the gender pay gap. And so they had the time to make a sign. They had the time to take that sign and nail it to some boards and carry it around. But they didn't have time to Google whether or not that was true.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
It's also and I feel like some of them have to know,
right?
You
know
some
what
of them
it's like? They don't want to know, man. It's like I read this thing once that said that sperm cures depression in women. And I didn't even look any further. I'm like, I got all the information I need out of this. I don't want this debunked. I want to be rock solid in my approach. Shut the laptop and walked out of the room. I mean, that's really what's going on. It's like, that sounds great. If women make 79 cents to every dollar a man makes, it sounds awesome. This is a bullshit society. This is the patriarchy. The patriarchy.
The evil patriarchy. Meanwhile, you ask them, you ask one of these feminists, there's no reason with feminism if the goal is for total equality, but we all know that that's not really what feminism means today. That, if you sit there and be like, can you name just one thing that I can do that you can't? Just one. Like one, and I'm not saying like you give birth, I can, or something biological. I'm saying like, what can't you do? Like if you really wanted to. I'm not saying that, like as far I know, for instance, that the examples that people give, and I haven't seen the statistics, but I've heard it circulated that even that, companies are so desperate now to hire women because of this situation, this optical situation that they're in, where it seems like women are being pushed down, that women in their 20s and 30s are actually making more now. That they're and certainly they're more likely to get a higher education. Certainly they're more likely to be, even graduate high school. So there are actually systemic benefits to being a woman, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that either. But I just feel like it goes back to that thing of like, why are we fighting? Like, what is the divisive nature? Can't we? And this goes back to your question about the video game industry. I'm like, hey, instead of yelling at me about this, we won't agree about these situations over here, but can't we advocate for these together? Or do you not want to? You don't want my advocacy for gay marriage because I believe in small government? You don't want my advocacy for transgender rights because I'm for low taxes? I'm like, okay, that's weird, because we can totally be friends here. With the Women's March, I know that there were problems with pro-life organizations getting involved at a sponsorship level, even.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
And it's like they're not women,
right?
They're lesser than
because
you?
There's a debate about that one issue. Yeah,
it's strange.
You said something that I want to go back to. Like, sure. What do you think feminism is about?
Well, it's this argument
it's not about equality. Right?
To me, feminism was about equality. And I think that this I'm reading more about it and learning more about it, so I'm still very ignorant about it, but this more third wave, what they call third wave feminism, which I'm sure is a term you've heard, that seems to be more about a combative nature to actually, instead of like saying like men and women are equal, men and women should deserve the same rights and the same treatment and all those kinds of things, it actually seems to be very anti-man in a way. Like, it seems to be very like, almost like the tables have turned, and I'm like, but why are you turning the tables? Like, didn't you achieve what you wanted, like, in the first place, which was just that we were going to be here together at the at the nexus of everything as two genders? Part
of the problem is that reinforcing that fake statistic, the gender pay gap, that so many people have heard that. Like, Sarah Silverman was just talking about it recently in some big thing that she did. I'm like, that's not true, but yet people just say it, and no one stops them from saying it. A friend of mine that was a very educated guy said it. We were having a debate about divorce, and he brought it up, and I was like, that's not even true. And unfortunately, we were in a place with no cell phone reception, so I had to wait until we got back to send it to him. I'm like, this is not true. Like, what you're saying is not true. Like, you're repeating it as if you know, but meanwhile, you've done zero research on it. It's a talking point that just gets reiterated over and over again without any research. And it's convenient. It's convenient to reinforce your argument. It's a number. It's a number that deals with a very complex and nuanced debate. And I think that the idea of feminism is, to me, in a lot of ways, very similar to the idea of the men's rights movement. I'm not opposed to rights for anybody. I'm not opposed to anyone. I'm very egalitarian in my ideas about the world, but I am opposed to anybody that likes one gender over the other, because I think that's foolish. Just like I'm opposed to people that only like white people, I'm opposed to people that only like black people, I'm opposed to people that generalize based on an enormous mass of human beings. Like, men are shit, women rule. Girls rule, boys drool. I don't like it the other way either. I don't like it the He-Man Women Haters Club. I don't like any ideologies that lump people into these huge groups, because I think it's moron think. I think it's a stupid way of looking at the world.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm the same way. The egalitarian nature is the best. The live and let live nature, to judge people based on their character and the quality of their intelligence or whatever it is you're looking for in them, shouldn't be categorized in these specific ways by sex or gender, by race or religion, by any of those kinds of things. I'm totally with you there.
But I think we both agree that women shouldn't be allowed to vote, right?
Well, that was women have suffraged long enough.
Enough already, girls.
I used to think that joke was so funny. You get murdered for that joke today, but like the women, like, instead suffragettes, like, women have suffraged long enough instead of suffering or whatever. And I was like, it's a funny joke. I'd probably that would have ruined my career too.